In the battle between some of the biggest Mexican names in all of boxing, Emanuel Navarrete came out on top. But before we get into that, we are all takes no whiffs. I'm Christian. That's Alex. And yeah, what a fight, to be honest. This was very entertaining as expected. When it comes to damage to the fighters, very one-sided when it like by looks, but it was a competitive fight, I would say. Navarrete though, I got to give him credit. I slept on his boxing skill because as awkward as he is, it's effective, and there is a technique to behind it. There is a technique behind it at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah, there's a technique behind it at the end of the day, and he just kind of overwhelmed Oscar Valdez, I feel like, throughout the entire fight, too. Also, that length, too, in the reach was a big factor in this fight, too, Navarrete being the bigger guy. But this was honestly a really good performance. If it went to the decision, I even told Christian before we started recording this, I figured Oscar Valdez would have won this fight. But like we said, this turned out to be an absolute brawl, and it started from round one. I remember in like the first 15 to 30 seconds of this fight, we saw that Navarrete left-handed uppercut, and once I saw that, I honestly knew this fight was going to be on for a while because him throwing that early kind of set the tone on the fight and kind of made me feel like that he had a pretty good game plan going into this and that he was very comfortable.
Definitely, I would say what probably helped him being so comfortable was that reach advantage. He was capitalizing on that like crazy. To be honest, though, this is kind of a knock on both fighters. Defense, not very much defense displayed in this fight,
But that's what
but
made it such a good fight.
yeah, true. But the thing is, Valdez did not capitalize on Navarrete's bad defense at all. Like there's a lot of moments that I feel like he could have attempted a counter that he just didn't let it go. I don't know if it was just him being frustrated on the outside that Navarrete was just hitting him with all these shots from long range. But Valdez, that's my biggest criticism. It's in a matchup like this, he definitely had to, I think, respond more in exchanges.
Oh yeah, Valdez was definitely countering pretty well at times too. He landed some really nice shots when he was countering. But I will say one thing with him though, it looks like he's putting all of his might into some of those punches at times, or pretty much every punch too. I feel like that's kind of easy for an opponent to read, and you can kind of tell what's. eh,
Loading, like he's loading up
yeah,
on his punches a lot.
You get what I'm trying to say though.
Yeah, yeah. That's a telegraphing basically. Just because he's showing that he's bracing for this punch and kind of a heads up almost.
Yeah, and it's just kind of weird. And Navarrete, I feel like he just kind of figured that out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're at long range like that, that's just even more time to see the punch come in too. That's a good point. That's a really good point actually. And Val, not I don't want to make this call out, but now that you bring that up, I feel like Canelo's been kind of fighting like that lately, and that might have just been like an Eddie Reynoso switch up. Maybe he trained him like that, and I don't know. I feel like I've seen that from Canelo as of late. So maybe Valdez running the same game plan, and I don't know. I feel like against these longer range guys, you might have to switch that up. Not pointing any fingers though. Yeah, I mean that might just be Oscar Valdez's style. But as far as Oscar Valdez and the winner of the fight, Navarrete, what's next for them? Uh, honestly, they have options because honestly, they could run this fight back if they wanted to. It's good marketing wise. It's a Mexican showdown. If Valdez could promise and maybe show in training camp that he could come back improved, that'd be cool, I guess. But I feel like he needs to prove himself, to be honest, between now and that next fight. I don't know. I feel like Navarrete has him kind of in the bag if they just fight again next. So Valdez definitely needs to either get something going between then and now, or have his perfect fight like he did against Burchelt. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I feel like a rematch would be a pretty good marketable thing right now. Both these two guys are some Mexican warriors right now, and they proved that it can be a pretty good fight too. So honestly, would love to see a rematch out of them. But if Navarrete wants to go a different way, I'd like to see him either unify with some of these other guys in this division. I think Joe Cordina, I probably said his
Mhm.
last name wrong. Hector Luis Garcia. He could unify with one of those two guys, or Oshaki Foster. He has the other belt. He just upset Ray Vargas, I'm pretty sure. So he could unify with any of those guys. Don't want to get too ahead into those, but I think he will beat all three of them.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Oshaki can make it competitive, but I would still
Mhm.
definitely give it to Navarrete. But at the same time, Oscar Valdez, that's a big name too that we gotta talk about him. So the rematch, yeah, we said what we said already. In the meantime, though, I feel like Valdez, if he didn't want to face up against Navarrete next, he might be able to get a fight against one of the other title holders because he's just one of the biggest names at 130. Could bring in for a decent draw. That might be enticing to one of those guys. But I just really think he needs to fight somebody else in between that and the next Navarrete fight. He needs some things. He's got to work on some things for sure. So as far as who he should fight next, I'm gonna say not Navarrete.
No, I'm honestly with you with that. I don't think he should fight him again next, but honestly, like I said, would love to see a rematch.
Eventually,
Think eventually. So, I mean, it's like you said, just not Navarrete. Get him in there with maybe one of these other champions because they, I feel like I said, are not as good as Navarrete either, or one of these other contending guys in this division. But Oscar
hmm
Valdez is definitely gonna have, I feel like, another shot at a world title here.
honestly, that's in his best interest. It's probably in Top Rank's best interest. Yeah, it's just, business of boxing and all that. But credit to Valdez though, still a warrior at the end of the day. I know he took the L, and it's his second L now. Just kidding. L's losses are lessons in this sport, guys. Don't be afraid to lose.
At least they're the 2 world champions, though, and
Exactly.
one of them's one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world.
Exactly. So yeah,
Shakur
no,
Stevenson, if you don't know who his other loss.
yeah, Shakur cooked him though. Not gonna lie, but and Valdez, he's still borderline cream of the crop. I would say it's just those guys. I guess you could say are a step ahead of him. But just a quick mention on this undercard, Richard Torres with another first round knockout. But this one was a
Actually set up a
yeah,
knockout this time.
and it was in style. I liked it, and then the ref had to step in after, and I think that was an appropriate stoppage because
Mhm.
Willie Jake
It
Jr.
was gonna get bad.
So good fight for Richard Torres Jr. But at the same time, yeah, no, we saw some progress. I would say that's cool. We saw that, but really solid card this weekend. Looking forward to seeing what Navarrete has next and Valdez too, because I want to see how he bounces back. If you guys want to as well, definitely hit the subscribe button because we're going to be covering them once their next fights are announced. And go ahead and leave a like because we appreciate any and all support.
Yeah, go ahead and let us know down in the comments who you want to see both of these guys fight next, if you want to see a rematch between these two. And also, what you thought of Richard Torres' knockout, because I think that was a pretty nice and clean knockout for him, and really excited that he finally set one up. But I'm looking forward to talking about these guys a lot more. But until then, peace.
Peace.